One thing I can say, America has a long-standing record of imprisoning and executing innocent people. We can date this all the way back to slavery through Reconstruction, all the way up to present day. And they're not ashamed of this history at all. You know, it's not like they see these cases and go all out to get these people free. They do absolutely nothing and say nothing. This gets no fanfare at all. Marcellus Williams faced execution despite new evidence. Marcellus Williams is due to be executed on Tuesday despite new DNA evidence supporting his claim to innocence. The fact that he's Black, no shock. America has this tendency of putting a high number of people in jail that are Black and that are innocent. But because of their ignorant stereotypes, they want to keep coming back to you talking about somebody being the most violent. But it's amazing. Every time we see gun violence in America, it's always a white face that keeps showing up all over the damn place. On Tuesday night, the U.S. state of Missouri is planning to execute Marcellus Williams, despite a new report from a DNA expert that his lawyer argues supports his claim to innocence. In 2001, Williams, who is now 48, was convicted of the 1998 killing of Leisha Gale. But his lawyers say new DNA evidence could exonerate him. The Missouri Supreme Court, however, has refused to review that evidence. Oh, how convenient. And I wonder, how white is this court? Because that seems like a very white attitude. Oh, I'm not going to look. Williams' lawyer, Kent Gibson, has described the Supreme Court's decision as baffling. No, it isn't. It's typical. We petitioned the court to look at the new evidence on August 14th, and less than 24 hours later, they decided, based on the court files, that the execution should go ahead anyway. This is unprecedented, Gibson told Al Jazeera. Williams, who has always claimed he is innocent, was sentenced to death in 2001. 3 years after Gale, a former newspaper reporter, was murdered in her home in a gated community in St. Louis, Missouri. He was originally due to be executed on January 28, 2015, but Missouri's High Court decided to postpone the execution to allow time for new DNA tests to be conducted. Those tests show that the male DNA on the murder weapon, a knife, was not Williams, but belonged to a third unknown person. There is no physical evidence, no eyewitness that directly connect Williams to the murder. The DNA on the weapon wasn't his. The bloody fingerprint at the murder scene wasn't from Williams' shoe and was a different size. So they had a footprint at the location of the murder, but it wasn't even his shoe size. Wow. The hair fibers found weren't his, said Gibson. It was someone else that killed Gale, not Williams. How Williams was convicted. During Williams' trial, the prosecution based its case on the testimonies of two people, Henry Cole and Laura Asaro. Cole had shared a cell with Williams after he had been taken into custody on suspicion of being involved with Gale's murder. Cole said Williams had confessed to murdering the 42-year-old woman. Now, why are you taking this from another inmate that's probably lying so he can try to get out of jail? The other testimony was given by Laura Acero, a convicted drug addict. So he's being pointed at as guilty by two convicted criminals. Boy, I tell you, America's legal system really sucks. Who was Williams' short-term girlfriend at the time of the murder. She claimed, among other things, to have seen scratches on Williams' neck that were made by the victim. These scratches would leave DNA traces on the victim, but Williams' DNA was not found underneath the victim's fingernails, just like it was someone else's DNA that was found on the murder's weapon, said Gibson. So you got some salty ex-girlfriend and some prison mate that pointed him as guilty. I tell you what, America's justice system, no matter what state you're in, it is really, really bad. If this is what you call compelling, this is pretty sorry. No wonder why this country is going in the toilet real fast. It deserves to go down. I say let it fall, because if this is how you run things, it don't need to stand any longer. Let it fall. Okay, she also claims she saw Williams with the victim's driver's license, which is impossible because Gail's license was left at the crime scene. Gibson believed both may have been motivated to give false statements in hopes of receiving a financial reward. The victim's family offered a reward of $10,000 for anyone, with tips leading to the arrest of the person who murdered Leisha Gale. Gibson explained. So that's what they were after. They were after the $10,000. So that's why they lied. They both got paid by the victim's family after their testimony. See that? So these two convicted criminals that pointed him out as the guilty party got paid. Only in America. Only in America. You can get people to lie and they get paid. And they can be criminals too. With no forensic or eyewitness testimony linking Williams to the murder, the prosecution based its case on these two witnesses. At the time, we didn't have the technology to do these DNA tests, but even now that there's an indisputable scientific evidence exonerating Williams from the murder, the Attorney General still thinks these testimonies hold more weight than the DNA evidence that shows Williams didn't commit the crime, Gibson said. You know what? They must be some evil bastards there in Missouri. You got DNA evidence and they're still dismissing it because they want this man executed. That is just blatantly evil. This is evil. One of those following this case closely is Sister Helen Prejean, a well-known opponent of the death penalty who came to international fame after she wrote a book, Dead Man Walking, which was later made into a film. Griffin Hardy, a spokesman for Sister Helen Prejean, anti-death penalty organization Ministry Against the Death Penalty, told Al Jazeera, the fact of the matter is DNA evidence show that Marcellus Williams was not involved in this crime. That means that there is a killer who may still be out in the community at large. Missouri should use its resources to apprehend the real killer instead of executing a man who didn't commit this crime. Oh my goodness. Somebody got at least a fraction of common sense there in Missouri. You know, I just don't. This is wicked what Missouri is doing. This is downright wicked. I'm just going to go down a bit, and I will leave the link to this article in the description box. Williams' execution can now only be stopped by the United States Supreme Court or the governor of Missouri, Eric Greitens. I guess that's how you say his name. He is a newly elected governor, and he has heavily campaigned on being pro-life. Anyone who says he is pro-life wouldn't let anyone be executed, especially not when there is more than enough reasonable doubt, like in this case, Gibson said. Hardy hopes Governor Greitens will stop the execution and that a new investigation to find Leisha Gale's killer will be launched. Society may debate the question of whether the death penalty is acceptable for guilty prisoners, but no one can argue with the fact that an innocent person should never be executed, he said. Williams is due to be executed by lethal injection. Al Jazeera contacted both the Office of Missouri's Attorney General, Josh Hawley, and the Office of Missouri's Governor, Eric Greitens, for this article. Neither had responded by the time of this publication. This is disgusting. And it just goes to show you how wicked America really is. There should be no one sitting on a Supreme Court in a state or in this land, anywhere, that refuse to look at evidence. Any judge in this country, when new evidence come up that can exonerate a person and they refuse to look at that evidence, they should be immediately removed from the bench and disbarred from practicing law in this country ever again. But we know we don't live in a just world. We live in this shitty world. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. And by the way, this article just came out like 11 hours ago. Peace, family.